Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is our continuation ADP versus end of the season fantasy points for quarterbacks, part 3, 2015 to 2022. Obviously, you should watch part 1 and 2. Okay, so we had the last time we gathered together, part 2, we had this suggestion that about ADP 10 was an issue. Okay. Certainly, and we also saw the last 3 years was very dramatic in output of quarterbacks versus the previous 4 years. We also saw that 2022, it looked like about the 7th quarterback was kind of that level of safety last year. So last year was a little strange. I think I've talked about that in my previous lessons on historical data and quarterbacks. And I think there was injuries. I think some of the older quarterbacks got hurt. There was just not as much output, and I think that caused a funky season. Previous years, I think that the late quarterback was holding more sway than in 2022. I predict you'll hear less of the late quarterback because people are very sensitive to what happened recently, right? You've heard the recency bias. I won't go into that. Everything's got a story to it on concepts, and it's kind of like, yeah, recency bias, except when you shouldn't pay attention to it, right? So there's always things. There's no perfect rules. There's no heuristical, secret sauce. It's things that are shortcuts that pretty much are pretty close to being right, but they're not perfect. And so people get confused and amazed when things don't work exactly what they're supposed to work. In other words, in their head, well, 2023 should be like 2022, and where's that? There's, no guarantee of that. I think the suggestion is probably the earlier quarterbacks will tend to be very productive, and I think the further you go, certainly to about round 10 or so, it gets awful risky. We talked about rounds historically, so there was evidence as well. So we've actually covered a lot of ground. I just don't get the bullhorn out and, shout at you. I mean, I want you, dear listener, to look at this yourself. Listen to what I'm saying, but you figure it out. You take notes. You chop your own wood. Okay? There's no money in it for me. Let me tell you. Care what these clowns on Twitter say. Okay, so let's continue our journey. That was enough of my diatribe. This is this round concept continuing. This is uncertainty levels, and I believe I do a chart of this. Yeah, uncertainty levels. So we have uncertainty levels, and the lower the number, and it's stained green, the less uncertainty we have. You can tie it to risk, but I think there's a difference between risk and uncertainty. People get confused, just like theory and hypothesis get confused as well. And I'm just saying, take a look at 2022. Look at 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th Look at the uncertainty levels went up there, but 9 was safe, and then we hit some uncertainty, and it really gets crazy about 12, 13, 14. So to me, historically, you're fairly, and, and I hate to use the word safe because that fools you, and you're never safe. You're just less uncertain in certain situations. But 2022 was a funky situation. Look at that. Look at 2021. Everybody loved that late QB, and, I love it too. I wish that was a guarantee. It is not a guarantee unless you're good at it. Historically, we've seen less uncertainty in the first, 2, 3, 4 rounds, but some years it's been awful tricky. Rounds 5, 6, 7, 8. Look at 2021. You want to know how strange that was? Look at the 8th round here. Look at that. 5.2. Look at every other year. Okay, in the 8. So 7 other years, the lowest was 8.6. So, very strange year. So, if we were predicting 2022 to look like 2021, we got burned. And I think I've said this multiple times, and do people even talk about that? I've already told you what it looks like to me happened. Okay, there were some injuries on the older quarterbacks. That's what I think was going down. So we do have uncertainty levels. Certainly, the green, like I said, first 6, maybe 7 tends to be safer. Of course, 2022, you bought the farm there. So if you aggregate the data, okay, round 2 and 3 are pretty good, the lowest uncertainty. Round 4's nice. I mean, if you had a tier, you would call this 1, 2, 3 tier. 4 tier would be about right here, 5, 6, and 7. And maybe even 8 and 9 were a separate tier. I mean, you could break that apart there. But to me, it looks, I mean, one could draw the line 2, 3, 4 rounds, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm wanting to get a quarterback when the top 6 rounds. We're hitting that uncertainty. I think I can live with that this year, 2023. Okay, so I'm going to let people, it's kind of like a hot potato. How long do you hold it? How long do you wait for that one quarterback? I understand in Superflex and maybe best ball, we're a little bit more strict on things. I am suspecting that the top 3 quarterbacks are going to go earlier than they should because 2022 was really punishing those that tried to wait later. So that's just a thinking. So I'm thinking if I miss out on the elites, I don't want to miss out too much. 5th, 6th rounds maybe. Okay. So, and I'm not sure what quarterbacks are in that. I guess I should figure that out. So, on that, maybe I'll stop what I'm doing and go do that. I pulled up Fantasy Pros looking at their ADP. Quarterbacks pretty much round 2 is Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. Okay, and notice the drop off. I'm telling you, people are pushing the quarterback this year if you look at the overall. looks like Burrow is coming in next. I don't care about accepting cookies. Jackson, Fields, Herbert, and Lawrence. That's it. So the data points, if you don't grit the elite, but it's going to cost you a second round pick, then you're left with Jackson, Burrow, Fields, Herbert, Lawrence. Who is safe? Okay, who is safe? Okay, so there's the question. There's the trick. Okay, so you can do your research there. Okay, hopefully Fantasy Pros won't get cranky at me for using fair use one time. Okay, visual of their stuff. Okay, I could have gone to Fantasy Calculator or FFPC. I just grabbed the first one. Not biased one way or the other. But anyway, there's your trick right there. Notice we got 3 quarterbacks round 2. I don't know. I don't know. I have to look. You could do your research. Fantasy Calculator lets you look back. You might look a few years back just to see, is this a little unusual? I think people are pushing things right now. Okay. And that's fine. I think everybody's gun shy, folks. So you need to decide, do you want to jump in the pool at round 2? Burrow, I think, what was round 3? Seems okay. Round 4, 5, and 6, you got to, what was it, about 5 or 6 more? See who you like in that group. I definitely have some winners and losers there for me personally. But right now, I think that's kind of the overall question. I'm not into one quarterback redraft yet, so I'm not overly sensitive and jumping in. I'm just telling you the problem as I see it. Here is the trend. Uncertainty levels, last 8 years. There it is. Looks like you step up round 10. Okay. And maybe historically round 7 you could get away with. I like 6. But that's just me guessing. I'm not wanting to wait round 10. I know, that's something to consider, but to me, I'm getting worried about round 10. Round 9, I mean, this data historically would say you're okay to round 9, roughly. It's like second round, third round are close to a tier, fourth round's its own. Then it looks like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are its own. Then it looks like 10, 11 kind of drops down, but if you average that, then looks like 10, 11, and then you do not want to be 12, 13, 14 for your first quarterback. Okay. 14 minutes. Let's see. I'll get a little bit into this data here. Okay. So we are looking at 2015 to 2022 quarterback populations of achieved fantasy points, going to be the average, versus ADP draft rounds. So I collected draft rounds 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably should have done 6, but let's just do 5. I've already done this data. This is where you're at. Things that I see. The idea that 15, 16, 17, 18 were different than 19, 20, 21, and 22. That's what, 16's could be in that range. But look at 15. 15 was a tough year. Wow. Did you get surprised? And notice 2022. Look at the size of the box. Wow. Was there a lot of variation there? Big variation. So people were putting all their eggs in those early quarterbacks, and some won and some lost, and people got burned. And now 2023, everybody's wanting that elite quarterback. That is pushing the narrative to that. And that's why. If you ever wonder why, that's because people are reacting to the last year. Okay? Just saying, people were reacting. Given the size of 2022, the data suggests we won't have that kind of variation 2, 3, 4, 5 draft rounds. That tends to be 2 out of 8, right? You had that kind of box. So I'm thinking this idea of waiting until the 5th, 6th round could be okay. I think in one quarterback leagues, I'm going to highly consider that. I haven't made a decision. I mean, it's not even June yet. It's May 31st. So I don't have to make my strictest cuts downs right now today. So that's my leaning right now as I analyze the data. Here's the data. Okay. What do you think it means, right? So when you see my lessons, that's how you should approach this. Whoa. Yeah, old Bush doesn't know anything. Let me look at it. Hey, I'm at least giving you the data. Okay. There it is. Woo woo. Here is 6, 7, 8, and 9 Saint data. Look at 2022, folks. Oh my God. People say, what's going down in 2020? Look at that. It exploded downward. Boy, you got bit bad last year. Anybody said that? Has anybody showed you this data? Has anybody told you the truth about things, or they're not even talking about last year? Folks, you've got to understand what's driving the public. Okay? You've got to understand the pros and cons of ADP's wisdom of the crowds. And I'm telling you, the quarterback, they're all wonky, and people are running scared. Maybe if you're a gambling type and you think that's such an anomaly, certainly looks like it in those rounds, you could buy a ticket 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So you might look in those. If you're going to gamble, maybe that's where you gamble. In other words, if you wanted to do a late quarterback, you're hoping you get a 2021. That's pretty good. Don't think we'll see that. Don't think we'll see 2022. 2019 seems like kind of between the two extremes. So maybe you'll benefit. But there's the data. Boy, people got burned. But you know what? If they waited way late, pretty much got as good. Still a big box. A lot of variation. Rounds 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, folks. Look at 2019. What a golden age. Wow. could you have really benefited from the late quarterback? I think that year really started the QB late business. They became popular because of that data. And since then, we haven't seen the return of that. Look at how short that box is. That's abnormal, just like 2022 was abnormal as well. Maybe something like 2020, 2021, somewhere in there is closer in those rounds. Maybe a little hope, but boy, I think for every good shiny penny you find, you're going to get a lot of dull ones there in that crew. I think so. Okay, it's 20 minutes. Let's see how far I got to go here. I think I got enough for another lesson. My voice is playing out. Okay, very intriguing data again. Who loves you? Oh, Dr. Bush. Here we go. Okay, slicing your bread, putting the mustard or mayo on it. Here it is. You know, put your lunch meat on it. Go eat. Go enjoy. I know. I still think you should chop your own wood. But there it is. Come back. I think we'll finish last lesson. Woo woo. Is this fun or what?